Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? Great to see everyone. Okay, so I had a couple technical difficulties as usual. And do me a favor, can everyone hear me okay? If you wouldn't mind just firing me a message in the chat, I'd appreciate it. How's my sound coming in? Bit of an echo. Okay, let's see. Is that better? Okay, good. Thanks, guys. All right, good evening. So, and there's Cheri. There she is. All right, fantastic. Let me just bring her to the stream.
Sorry.
Oh, all right, Cheri, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, Jim.
Quite all right. It's no worries, Cheri. So, guys, welcome to the anchor team this week. Mr. Hitchborn has to drive his son to college, and that's an important thing to do. So, thankfully, I can back him up. But we have a great show planned today. We're pleased to have with us Miss Cheri Ballinger, who we interviewed Cheri about 6 months ago in General Quarters, right before the release of the Roe v. Wade movie, of which she was one of the executive directors. Cheri, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Jim, for having me on again. And hello to everyone. I'm so pleased to be here. And I had so much fun the last time being on here with you for the Lepanto Institute. So it's great to be back again.
Fantastic. So listen, we're going to start with a quick prayer. And this is as you know, Cheri, this is a private anchor team get together. Cheri, I'm going to leave it to you. We're going to do the Hail Mary. You want it in Latin or English? Your call.
Okay. You know what? Since you're going to lead it, I think it would be great if we can do it in Latin, actually.
Oh, okay. Great. In nomine Patri, et Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. All right. So, anyway, thanks everyone for showing up. So listen, today we thought we'd do something very interesting. Cheri, given her background in acting and producing, we thought it would be great to talk about Hollywood and great Catholic movies. And you may wish to take notes because we're going to talk.
Yes.
Because how many times have you hung around your house going, God, what are we going to watch? Well, by the end of the show, you are going to have a great insight into some fantastic movies. And by the way, Cheri, I read your list. We put together a list, hers and mine. And I read your list, and I watched one of them last night, and it was tremendous, by the way. So it really, seriously true. So let's see now what else. So also, folks at home there, we would also appreciate your input on this. If you have any questions for Cheri, or if you have any of your favorite movies that you want to pop in, we will gladly discuss them. And I'm never short of an opinion. So there you go. So, but first I have to go over a couple of things in the news. Okay. This week, there was a tremendous movie out. It was the first of a trilogy called Mass of the Ages, and it was released. This is a documentary directed by Cameron O'Hearn. It's a trilogy that explores the richness of the traditional Latin Mass. Now, I saw it, and many of you probably did as well, and I thought it was extremely well done. Great cinematography, right? Cheri, flowed beautifully. Interviews, right? And the film is also, the second and third parts, also an investigation into the surprising events that led to the creation of the Novus Ordo. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is first to recommend it to you guys, and that you should see it, but also, I was talking to Michael, a great point, There was an article written on the film in American magazine, America Magazine, which is the Jesuit Review. This, plain and simple, was a shameless hit piece. Now, and as such, I think this article has to be addressed. Now, the author is John Anderson. Let's first talk about the title. Review, Mass of the Ages uses classic propaganda tactics to make the case for the Latin Mass. Okay, right from the beginning, the objectivity is clearly compromised. Now, I'm going to read you the first paragraph, and then Cheri, I'm going to ask you, as a Hollywood person, and just to answer a quick couple of questions. But here's the first paragraph, just to give you an idea of the tone of this article. The author begins this way: "It's not exactly the triumph of the will of the Latin movement, but Mass of the Ages does bear all the hallmarks of classic propaganda: scapegoating, fear-mongering, kitschy theatricality, the use of only enough history to make its case, and a complete absence of a counter-argument. If only the priest would turn his back on members of the congregation, the movie's logic goes, and recite the liturgy in a language they don't understand, the pews would be full and the seminaries overflowing. Suicide rates would drop, divorces would end, no one would be lonely." Okay, totally snarky. Now, Miss Cheri Ballinger from Hollywood fame, I ask you, in all sincerity, you saw the movie.
Yes.
It was a beautiful film.
Yes.
This author stated this movie is propaganda. Do me a favor. Do you think this was propaganda? Could you speak to that?
Okay, I'm dying to talk about this. I think this is excellent that you're bringing this up, because I did read the article and I did watch the movie. So I'm familiar with the snarky article, which I did find extremely snarky.
Extremely snarky.
You know, listen, I think that the film was so well put together. Yes. And they really humanized it too by using that lovely widow and her family and their story. And I felt like that giving that human element in that very personal, emotional, true story, and interweaving that with the history behind, the Novus Ordo, bringing that in, and then the history behind the Latin Mass of the Ages. I think that probably touched a few nerves. And that's hence this article, because it was definitely not a propaganda film. I thought that it was very beautifully made. And I really love how they did the comparisons, but they actually weren't putting down the Novus Ordo Mass in as much as just explaining the Latin Mass. And that was something that I really liked about this movie was, to their point and to their credit, I feel that a lot of people, when they hear, the words Latin Mass, everybody has their own personal idea in their minds of what that is and maybe what that means and their own experiences or lack thereof. And no one really knows a lot of the very intricacies that are involved in the Mass of the Ages. Most people just don't know. I mean,
right. Fair enough.
Most people have not been properly catechized, and we know that to be true for a number of decades now. And so there's a lot of ignorance. And I think that this article was really playing off of most people's ignorance, and they were being very snarky. But on a positive note, I think that this film probably touched such a few chords and nerves that's why this article was written in the way it was, because I found the film to be very powerful, and I really did love it.
Great analysis. I can't disagree with anything you're saying. I think you hit it right on the head. And it was interesting because Catherine Hitchborn actually wrote in the comment section earlier that I had this guy, this priest, Father Genuine, on this week in General Quarters. He was a really interesting guy. And he made the point, it was so powerful. In the movie, they showed, everyone thinks that the Latin Mass is just a change in language. And that's entirely false. It was completely redone. And one of the things was, and I think the correct term would be the rubrics of the Mass. And it was, they had a framed copy, as you know, right? A framed copy of the Novus Ordo versus the TLM. And I mean, it was very striking. And Father Genuine, who I interviewed, went into that in depth. And I would suggest to anyone who's got some time, please check out that interview. It was in two parts rather, and he was great. But your analysis, Cheri, your analysis on that was perfect. It was so snarky. It was painful to read. It was absolutely painful to read. It was. So I'm going to go a little further on this. So the author continues, and it goes, a film review is no place to make sweeping conclusions about the validity of one Mass over another, and a film critic is not a theologian. But it is difficult to watch an exercise like Mass of the Ages and not see its argument as akin to paranoid politics, exclusionary worldview, and antipathy to change that has displayed itself in so many arenas of public life. And then there's the charity of Pope Francis, the pontiff's attempt to make the Mass both Catholic and Catholic, capital C, lowercase c. Attempts to make the Mass both Catholic and Catholic as well as unified have been met with the same kind of us against them thinking that consoles people whose real problems lay elsewhere and whose double talk is given a showcase in Mass of the Ages. The resistance to an alternate point of view borders on fascistic, as in fascist. Okay, stop right there. And you hop in whenever you want, Cheri, but I'll tell you, it's not fascistic in the least. The author states that there is a complete absence of a counter argument. All right, allow me to offer the author some desperately needed context to his observation. The movie is the counter argument, is my point. What could the counter argument possibly be? The director is making the point that basically the TLM is reverent, far more reverent expression of faith than the Norvis Ordo. And anyone who knows what's going on up there would understand if there was ever a need for reverence, that would be it. The reason the movie is the counter argument is because Pope Francis is trying his best to eliminate this Mass. I think it was a fair assessment. What counter argument could the author? What would you like to see? I mean, the pews are empty. 70% of self-identified church-going Catholics don't believe in the real presence. Please tell me, what can, go ahead, Cheri, jump in.
You know what? You're so right about that, because it's like, okay, what counter argument? And, you touched on something that was so true. You mentioned Father Genuine, who I love, by the way. He's fantastic.
Yeah, right. He's just a great guy. He really is.
He is. Very good priest as well. And you know what? That was a part of it that I really liked, is the comparison in the actual film, showing, like you said, the rubrics, the frame, also how many genuflections, how many sign of the crosses were made, the difference between the two. I really loved the comparison. So really, when you talk about counter argument, I mean, come on. I go back to what I just said. I feel like it must have struck a few nerves. And I will also say, too, another thing that I really thought was very powerful in this movie was the talking points made by a lot of public figures and celebrities. So they actually had, I think it was Jimmy Fallon on there, talking about how when he was a young boy, he actually wanted to be a priest. And how when he was in LA, he went to church for a little while, but then, because of the drums up there and all this other stuff, like, he stopped going to Mass. And I think that must have hit a few nerves with people, because this was actually showing, and you're hearing real people talk about their experiences as a child with the Mass of the Ages in comparison to what we've been seeing in recent years, which is just, let's be honest, a circus. And, it's terrible. And so, come on, what counter argument do you want?
Fair enough. And your point about Jimmy Fallon was perfect, because
I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was great too, because all the author could do was, well, Jimmy Fallon could not have possibly have taken part in the traditional Latin Mass, the Tridentine Mass. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But the point was, much like when I was a young boy and I was an altar boy, it was a lot more reverent. And no one's slamming. Look, I'm not in a position to determine the validity of the Norvis Ordo. I'll go by what they say, sure. But even on that respect, we've been to reverent Norvis Ordos versus liturgical dancing and puppets. You know what I mean? And so Jimmy Fallon's point, he tried to absolutely dismiss it, and which kind of brings to my next point. And I think that like I was telling you a little about this before as we kind of got together for the show. Where's this all leading to? Well, it's leading to a real crisis in the church. And just a real quick point. As maybe you guys remember now, but about a month ago I moved, or actually beginning of August, so 3 weeks ago, and I tried to get my house blessed. I was telling Cheri about this as well as some other people, and I thought it was a really fair request, So I called my local parish, and so I get a call back from Sister Pantsuits. I go, oh, lovely. And I go, Sister Pantsuit. And I go, so are you, doing the house? So you're doing the scheduling for Father X, whatever. I don't even know his name. I'm new to the parish. She goes, oh no, I'm doing the house blessing. I go, Look, this has nothing to do with you being a woman, but negative. I go negative. It has nothing to do with you being a woman. If you were an Irish Christian brother, I would say the exact same thing. There's nothing that you can do. I have more authority blessing my house than you do. Look it up, okay? I have no interest whatsoever. Well, apparently that angered them. And then you kind of move down the line, and then it took 3 weeks, and then I got a call from good old Deacon Joe, and his first question was, have I been vaccinated? Yeah. Yeah. And I go, no. It's funny, Deacon Joe, being Catholic, I had this thing about using vaccines that are taken from murdered children. And so he didn't kind of enjoy that very much. And he informed me that the Pope said it was okay. And I said, wow, the Pope says it's okay. It must be okay. Anyway, the point is, this is where we're at. And I will tie that. I think it would be a mistake. I mean, the author mocks this concept. But this is part of the problem as to why we're where we are at today. But Cheri, I'm going to end the article and then we're going to get into the movies. But right, so at the end of the article, you want to talk about snarky, right? Look this up in the dictionary. So the author ends with this: at the end of the credits of Mota, Mass of the Ages, is the following description of episode 2. A surprising investigation into the creation of the new Mass and the machinations of Archbishop Annibale Bugnini. The Archbishop, who has had several posts in the Roman Curie, including membership on the commission that reshaped the Mass in the wake of Vatican II, was rumored to have been a Freemason. Do not think for a moment that sequel will leave that alone. Okay, here's my, in the first place, anyone's looked into the good Archbishop Bugnini. I have no idea if he is a Freemason. However, he had a clear agenda, and that was the destruction of the Mass to make it more acceptable to Protestants and everyone else. The very heart and soul, the source and summit of Catholicism, to change it drastically. And I'm going to go into my take on that article, and then you give me your thoughts on it, and this is basically it. This is not a fair assessment by any measure. First, there's a discernible difference, right? These guys reduced the two masses to one as merely aesthetics and, quote, the incense and the mystery. So really a form of sentimentality and nostalgia. That's really how they reduce this, right?
Yeah.
Not a fair assessment, right? And there is a huge difference between that and the reverence of the TLM. Second, all one has to do is read the TLM compared to the Novus Ordo. I was absolutely shocked when I did it. I told you I clipped the book, brought it home, brought it back the next week, returned it. But I read it, and then went on the internet to check it. I could not believe the difference.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine anyone reading through the TL not seeing the striking difference, the absolute reference. In summary, the article was classic leftist. It was condescending beyond description. Just look at the opening paragraph I read. If only the priest would turn his back, members of the congregation, the movie's logic goes, and recite the liturgy in a language they don't understand, the pews would be full, et cetera, et cetera. That was just snarky. And basically I say, not very helpful, John Anderson, and may add you bomb-throwing commie. Anyway,
well, on that note, you know what? Honestly, I have to completely agree with you, Jim, because you know what? I felt like after seeing this film, I think that both Catholics and non-Catholics should actually watch this movie, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it's not. I felt like it's not just for Catholics, because Catholics nowadays are so poorly catechized that and everybody knows about the Catholic Church. Everybody knows about the Catholic Mass. If more people, Catholics and non-Catholics alike, saw this film showing the difference and showing the history behind it, the beauty of the TLM, all of these things, I feel like it's actually such a great evangelization tool for everybody.
Oh, wow.
Is what I thought, because I think that the comparisons made in this movie were so spot on. It was very easy to understand. I loved how they made the compare. I didn't feel like they were snarky at all. And again, I'm going to go back to saying that I really love how they put a more human, emotional element to it so that more people can identify, because they use this woman and her story and her family. And I think that that would actually really help bring people into the truth, and maybe answer some questions that people have of their own, and maybe get the curiosity going for people, and how many people could convert because of this movie. I thought it was beautiful.
Great observation. And the other part of it too is your comments about the personal stories, like that woman, I believe, had 4 children, right? Well,
Yeah.
I thought she was beautiful.
Yeah.
Her raison d'etre. You were French,
Yeah.
Cheri, so there we go,
Yeah.
huh? A little French there. Was, as I think she put it, was to march her children into heaven.
Yep.
Was that it? I
She
was
said.
like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
And here's a woman who got clipped hard. Husband,
Yeah.
41 years old, brain tumor, died. I mean, I was really taken by her faith and fortitude.
Yeah.
She was like, nope, and she was soldiering on, man. And
Yeah.
and
Oh.
I to your point, go ahead, please.
Sorry, Jim. I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
but
no.
You made such a good point just now, because that was something that I felt was so well done about this movie, because how many people are in that exact same situation right now where they are feeling so hopeless. And she talks about having the foundation and how tradition is simply just a strong foundation. She says that in this movie. How many people are looking for that right now? It's everyone. So I feel like that will help people identify with this and bring them in. I thought that was beautiful. That's a good point.
Great point. And the other thing is, like, what you know, your average, you know, I always say this, your average, particularly young man, take your average guy in his 20s and late teens, you stick him in any suburban Catholic parish, USA, there's nothing there for that guy. He walks in, he sees felt banners, whatever. Yeah. Who are the biggest? Where is all the growth coming from with the TLM? Young people. Yes. A lot of men there. Yes. You know, and this is what I don't know. I just find it really I found the whole thing distressing. So anyway, we had to really, and Hitch was right. We had to really hit that article right in the face. Absolutely. So I got to say, so Cheri, let's head right into the meat and potatoes of all this. I want to hear your opinion. Do me a favor, but before we start, first time we spoke, you had a great point about your vision for Hollywood and bringing back some of that glamour and make Hollywood great again. Can you go into that just a little bit? Because I thought it was really great the way you kind of laid that out.
Okay, well, thank you. You know what? Honestly, I really feel like that has been part of the mission that God has given me. And I think it's really perfect time right now. I mean, with everything going on in the world right now, and it's very easy to go down into this negative spiral and stuff, sure. And as we all know, but I really see this as such a time to be alive. And, you know, it's funny because I was recently speaking at this conference, and it came to me, one of my favorite scripture verses is Esther 4:14, where it talks about you were born for such a time as this. And you know what? That's true. Like, every one of us is living right now in 2021 for a reason. God has us all here during this tumultuous time in history for a reason. So it's like, what are we going to do about it? And I feel like the pendulum has swung so far to the other side that we actually need to bring back good movies again.
Yes.
Good stories. I mean, come on, they're running out of stories. They're remaking everything. It's ridiculous.
The triumph of the human spirit, and that's what they had. And it was funny because I looked at your list, and what I loved about it was, when we were talking about it, and we went to some of them, was a lot of them were not overtly Catholic. You know, like Donovan's Reef.
Donovan's Reef, yeah.
Yeah. It was great. By the way, thank you for that. That was a gift. That was a great movie. I had a buddy of mine over last night, and we were watching that. It was great. But I mean that if you look at it, and I've said this before, and if I get the years slightly off, bear with me. But in 1965, Sound of Music won Best Picture, right? 1966, Man for All Seasons, right? Yes. 1969. Midnight Cowboy, about a male prostitute in Times Square. Yeah. What the hell happened?
I know.
Boom.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know. It's like the ultimate decline. And you know what? You could see it though, with the whole world though. And like, look what was happening in the world during those years as well. Like, and you could see how the films, like, they go with that. So, you know, okay, I mean, I could talk about a million things right now, but what's coming to me is you mentioned Donovan's Reef. So
yeah, that's great.
One of the reasons why I put it on our list, Jim, was what I liked about that movie is how there's Catholicism in it, and it's just a normal thing. And that is my point here, because in making great movies again, we have to normalize good values. We have to normalize going to mass on Sundays, normalizing asking the priest to come and bless your house. You know, that used to be in movies all the time. It doesn't have to be overt. It doesn't have to be a faith-based film. What I feel is my mission, or one of my missions, is to normalize values and normalize true Catholicism again. Because let's face it, whether we like it or not, films, media, it all has such a huge impact on our society, on the world, whether we like it or not. And you know what? If we start to normalize these things again, I mean, kids see it, because let's be honest, when there's teenagers, they want to go see a movie or something, they're not going to go see the faith-based movie. They're going to go see the latest movie playing at the movie theater. So
that's right.
You know what I mean? That's the way it works. And so my whole thing is, we have to be Trojan horse style. We have to stick it in there, normalize Catholicism, normalize values again, and bring back the good stories, good films, and let's bring the pendulum to the other side.
Amen. So what I want to tell you is, so we're going to go through so I cut your list a little bit ahead, so I apologize, Cheri. Donegan or Donovan?
Donovan's Reef.
Donovan's Reef. That's our first one. And Lisa Evers, to your point, I'm going to put all of these movies in the show notes because I think they're worth it. So I highly recommend it. So it was great, because the other thing too was the movie opened up like in a great way. Like, it was really good. It was like, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but a bunch of guys who were fighting in World War II got stranded on this island. They were all great friends, but you wouldn't know it because all they do is beat the hell out of each other and drink. But the point was, and the nuns and the priests kind of kept them in line, and they were very good friends, and they were patriots. And the ending, it was a great movie. John Wayne was in it, and Lee Marvin, I believe. Is that right?
You know what? Don't remember who was.
Lee Marvin was in it.
Okay.
And that's right. And what else? So I'll put all this in the show notes. So, Cheri, I cut your list in half. What's give me your first one, even though I hit me.
So we have Donovan's Reef with John Wayne. And again, like, the reason why I say that one is because it normalizes Catholicism in it, having the priests and the nuns with the children. It's little things like that, these little things, we don't realize it all the time, but those little things matter, because they kind of like they come up here for people. And then the more we normalize it, that's what we need to start doing. Okay.
Absolutely. Fair enough. All right. So that we got that one, and the next one. Go.
Okay. So the next one is a little bit more on the nose. It's the Song of Bernadette.
Great one. Awesome. I please go.
Love that movie so much, because it tells the true story, as we know, of Our Lady of Lourdes, but it goes more into Saint Bernadette. And I really love that movie because the cinematography, the storytelling, it was such a cinematic gem. It wasn't just like some faith-based movie. It was actually a beautiful film. It was a beautiful movie. And it was very human. It had a very emotional human element to it, so that people can really identify, like, you know, if I were in her shoes. I know that you and I talked about that one part that we both happen to like, because, you know, it's true. There was the one guy who liked her, and then like they showed how when she went off into the convent, like he just said to her, you know, I'm never going to be married. I mean, I will never forget that scene, because it was so like, it was so
powerful.
Hits you right here. It's
real love. And
yes.
And if I could jump in, because it was funny, we had the same reaction to that.
Yes.
It was beautiful. And the part was the end of the movie. We were going away in horse and carriage, and it was a kind of a gender reversal, where the young man looked at her and told her he would never marry again because he loved her. I mean, you just went, whoa, you know, and it was a sacrificial love.
Yes.
Is what it was. And the movie was so powerful. The acting was great. And the thing was, I don't think you had to be Catholic to love the movie.
No, you didn't have to be Catholic to enjoy that movie at all. And to your point, you know, again, going back to just telling real stories and good storytelling again, it showed true love in that, especially in just that one scene. And you see how film is so powerful because just in a matter of like maybe a 1 minute scene, how much emotion that can evoke and make you just stop and think. And I felt like that was such a powerful movie for human emotion. So that's another one.
Excellent choice. I'll jump in with one, and it's one of my favorites. And I'll admit I mentioned this when we did in the show, but it's a great one. James Cagney, Humphrey Bogart, Pat O'Brien, Angels with Dirty Faces.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I think the guy's name's Leo Gorcey, who's in the Dead End Kids. Now, why do I like the movie? Okay, because I thought it was such a great story of a bunch of guys growing up in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, right? One guy went one way, one guy went the other way. They came back to the neighborhood, and the kids and their future was in the balance. Yeah. So you have Pat O'Brien becomes a priest. James Cagney becomes a gangster, and he becomes a very, very famous gangster.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the movie, and this is where it really got to me, at the end of the movie, I felt this was really powerful. And my mother, by the way, introduced me. She got me into movies. And at the end of the movie, James Cagney, I think he was Rocky. I think that's who he was. Yeah. He was going to get the electric chair. He was going to get executed.
Right. Yes.
And so Pat O'Brien goes to see him right before he's about to get electrocuted. And he says to him, these guys really look up to you. You have to die yellow. And he looked, in other words, so basically you got to be a coward at the end, or these guys are going to hold you up as a martyr. And he looks at Pat O'Brien, smiles, and he goes, no, I'm just going to go in and tell him I want a nice close shave or something like that. Some wise guy comment. And so at the end of the movie, he is going to his execution. Pat O'Brien is standing next to him praying.
Yes.
And then he fakes being scared.
Yeah.
And then when Pat O'Brien went back to see the kids in their clubhouse, he said to them, is it true, Father? Did he die yellow? And he goes, yep. And he did. And he said, let's go say a prayer for a boy who couldn't run as fast as I could. Because the reason he said that was because they got caught when they were kids. Stealing stuff from a train. And so James Cagney couldn't run as fast as Pat O'Brien. So he got clipped and arrested and went to juvie. And Pat O'Brien also became a priest. It's such a great movie. I'm like, so, all right. So you're up, Cheri. What's your next one?
You know what, though? I love that one, too, because, again, I'm going to pull up my list. Again, it's that human element. And that showed how, again, the normalizing of, the priest, a gangster and they were kids that grew up together. That's why I love that movie because, again, it's that human element,
Exactly.
So
and Mirror the Cat, that's Angels with Dirty Faces. And I swear to you guys, I'll put this all in the notes at the end of the movie. And I think we have 10 or 12 that we're going to go through. So we keep going because these are great.
Okay.
And I love your analysis, by the way, Cheri. So you hit it. Go.
Okay. My next one is The Trouble with Angels with Haley Mills. I don't know if anyone ever saw this. I believe it was in the 60s, the later 60s. She was a teenager. And you know what? The reason why I love this movie is I saw this when I was a young girl. And it affected me so much because it was all about these young girls. And the one girl, Haley Mills, she's very rebellious. She comes from a very broken home. And, they all get sent to this school or summer camp or something. And it's run by these nuns. And it just shows all of the, all the things that they get into. And, it's called, that's why it's called The Trouble with Angels. And it's so good because I don't want to give a big spoiler, but the girl who was such a troublemaker and always causing should I give it away? She chooses to become a nun. And it's wow. But I thought that was such a well done movie because you don't really see that coming if you've never seen it before.
Yes.
And again, I go back to this thing where it's normalizing vocations, normalizing the nuns, normalizing seeing the religious in their habits. We have to bring that back because it does matter. I mean, everyone always talks about how it's got the nuns and the pants. No. It does matter because how we project ourselves, how we are perceived, it all goes hand in hand with our personas. And God wants us all to be lights in this world. So I love that movie because it's such a great story. great story, great screenplay, excellent acting. Highly recommend it. Haley Mills, she was a teenager. Really, really good movie. Yeah.
And by the way, that was a United States movie, right?
It was pardon?
It was made in the United States, that movie, right?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you with your mother's French, right? If I remember right, or
Yes.
both here. I wanted to ask you, by any chance, just a side note, have you ever seen A Diary of a Country Priest?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you just had me thinking about it. And you know what? I'm gonna mess this up. So in the show notes, because I wasn't prepared for that one, just came at me. In the show notes, I'm gonna put it with a brief description of all this. But Colin has got Boys Town, 1938, Spencer Tracy, Father Flanagan. Great movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
Tremendous movie, and I mean, especially the theme, and given the
that's a good movie with Mickey Rooney. Sorry, guys, I didn't realize. I forget to look at the bottom there.
Oh yeah, with Mickey Rooney and
That's a good movie.
Whitey Marsh. That was his name, right? I believe that. Okay, got it. Yeah. That was a tremendous, especially in the current environment. When gosh, it almost seems like laughable in the current environment, but this was such a great movie. These guys were in tough shape, and Father Flanagan was a real guy, and he helped these guys out like St. John Don Bosco, and this kind of.
That's what that reminds me of. Yeah, I don't know if it's based on that, but it does remind me of like St. John Bosco. Yeah, yep. I love that. Love that.
And my sister. Oh, she comes in strong here. Hold on a second. This is great. Hold on. My sister comes in with Bells of St. Mary's, Ingrid Bergen, and Bing Crosby. Oh, it is? Oh, yes. Sorry. I cut you off.
That's on my list.
All right. Hit it, Cheri. Take it. Because that's a great movie.
No. Actually, no, I take that back. Mine is The Miracle of the Bells. No. But The Bells of St. Mary's, that is an excellent one. I love that movie. That's actually a really, really good movie.
Yes. With gosh, what's the name of that? Barry Fitzgerald, right?
Bergman and Bing Crosby. Yeah, no, actually, that was a really, really good movie. But on that note, the other one on my list was The Miracle of the Bells.
Who's in that?
So I recently saw that. That's with Fred McMurray.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Also, a young Frank Sinatra who plays a priest.
I saw that. Oh, yeah. The only problem I had with that movie was I could not get over Frank Sinatra being a priest. He was not believing.
Okay, I have to admit this. I recently saw that movie for the first time. That's why I put it on my list. But I love The Bells of St. Mary's too. But The Miracle of the Bells, I recently saw, and it hit me so much because it showed conversions. It showed like something bigger than yourself. And it was such a beautiful story. It had all of these movie stars in it. It was such great cinema. And again, it just normalizes values. It normalizes Catholicism. And that's what I'm getting at. Like these were classic mainstream films back in the day. So what we need to like bring it back to mainstream.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, you just remind me of something too, because I remember a few years back in the United States, it's very rare. One of my favorite people is Mother Miriam, right? She's wonderful. She was good enough to come on the show one time, and she was just fantastic. And one of the things is that, and she has keyed in on this, the testimony of wearing the habit.
Yes.
The way they do. And I lost that so much in the United States. It had gone away, and I was over in Rome and I saw that. And I must admit, I had a visceral reaction that was very, very positive. And to your point, yes, it's so important. It's funny as we're talking, Cheri, these people are firing in great suggestions.
Really?
And I gotta hit you this one, because I think this one is tremendous. Here it is. Scarlet and the Black.
Oh.
Gregory Peck, I believe.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's tremendous. Listen, Catherine, I'm gonna do my best. Catherine Hitchcock,
I know what I'm watching.
What's that?
I know what I'm gonna watch next. I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's actually I might mangle this, but I think, and do me a favor, if you guys can correct me on this, I'm gonna take a shot at this. This is Gregory Peck, who played a priest who was trying to get people out of Rome and Italy, who the Nazis were going after. Is that the one? Because if I'm thinking of the right movie, and I can't believe, I'm embarrassed it wasn't on my list because that was a tremendous one.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, it was so good. If anyone can correct me on that, but it was tremendous. The Robe, Richard Burton and Gene Simmons. The other one that reminds me of what was Scarlet and Black was there was that's good. Okay, thank you, Catherine. I was correct on that. It was Gregory Peck. It was a great movie.
Really?
That I can't believe we missed this on the list because it really was really worth mentioning. But the other one, which is not as well known, it was called The Cardinal, and I couldn't tell you who was in it. And it was about this guy who became a cardinal, and he had a bit of a crisis in his vocation earlier. Yeah. And it was about how he affected people around him just by staying faithful. And his sister died. There was some ambiguity as to whether or not she had died in mortal sin or not. Yeah. But he was a guy that just stuck to his vocation, and it was a very powerful movie. So, right, Christopher Plummer was the Nazi. That was the movie.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, it was so good. I can't believe I missed that. And this is the beauty. Thank you guys for jumping in here. This is the beauty of this. Like when you guys are coming in, because I'm a movie nut. I've bored Cheri to tears on some of this stuff because I mean it's great. So I think it's your turn or mine, Cheri. Is it mine? Or yours?
Well, I don't know, but I want to say you mentioned Christopher Plummer.
Yes.
How can we forget the ultimate, like The Sound of Music? Come on.
Somebody said that earlier. Yep.
The Sound of Music. That's on my list. It's on my list. You know why? I know everyone's seen it, but come on. I mean, we talk about like having everything, a cinematic classic, normalizing everything. I mean, come on. Again, to your point, the nuns and habits. And I just want to say just a quick story because it's so true. One of my very best friends happens to be a nun. Her name is Sister Clara Garcia. And the way that we met was I was going to college at Cal State Fullerton, and I'm like in line at the coffee shop on campus. Yes. And I see this nun, and she's like in her whole habit, the whole shebang, which is very rare to see walking around Southern California or anywhere in the United States. And I say to her, "Oh, are you a Catholic nun?" And she goes, "Oh, yes." And I said, "Oh, I'm really Catholic." And so we started talking and struck up a friendship. We've been dear friends for the last 15 years or something. And it was all because she was wearing her habits.
Correct.
And she was a witness, just doing her thing, living her vocation for God, but as an outward sign and having that habit on. And there have been so many beautiful blessings from that friendship. But that's how we met. So,
wow, I love it.
Beautiful things. It matters.
It's a testimony. They're out in public. They're going about their life about that. And I think your story just speaks to that. Because, it's interesting, though, because when you first said that, she was a nun out in public. And I said, "Are you a nun?" Well, that's not a foregone conclusion. It's not what you would call a bad question, because I don't know about you, but I've been to very major cities, and there's a lot of phony nuns running around collecting money, and I've seen them in New York City. I've seen them in Rome, the gypsies. So and it's really funny. And you almost like, oh, I know this is going to be crazy, but are you?
You always have to double check because it's so rare. That's why.
I know. I just kind of go, oh man, hang on a second. I heard the movie where Mary Eliza sang the Ave Maria so beautiful. He sang it in the beautiful church original high altar. The mass was the Great Caruso, 1951. The movie was. I did see that, but a long time ago. Great movie.
Like on John Caruso, like the story.
Yep, and I know, listen, you guys bear with me because I love these comments, because some of my movies might stuff you already heard of, but I got to tell you these ones. I got to tell you, It's a Wonderful Life. I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's tremendous. The bar scene. Okay, the bar scene.
Oh.
God, I'm not a praying man, but if you're out there, I'm at the end of my rope. Who doesn't grasp that? I mean, and what was interesting too was the guy wasn't acting because Jimmy Stewart, a lot of people don't realize this, was a World War II veteran officer in the Air Corps at the time, the Army Air Corps, had been on something like, I want to say 80 combat missions.
Yeah, a lot.
He was really hammered from that war. And he was a guy, he actually became, again, a lot of people don't realize this, he became a brigadier general. That wasn't because he was a Hollywood guy. It was because he was very proficient at his job. And anyone who served under Jimmy Stewart in World War II will tell you, this guy, he didn't care about the movies. He cared about getting his guys home and winning. He's a good man. This guy was a good man.
Yes, he was.
But that's my call. That's I got to tell you, it's just a tremendous movie.
I love that movie so much, Jim. Honestly,
Yep.
I don't mean to cut you off. I get so excited about that movie because that's a movie that to this day I could still watch and just like cry. It gets me every time. I cry every time I see that movie, especially when he finds out and all of the things, all of the good things in all the other people's lives that happened because
of him.
Because he stayed behind.
Yes.
And I think that's one of my favorite parts in that movie because it just reminds you, because sometimes you feel like, or what you're doing matter, but you don't know how many lives you affect every single day. And I love how in that film, it touches on that. And that is just a reminder for all of us because you don't know how many people you impact. Every one of us.
Fair enough. That exactly right. And even like his brother Harry won the Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Because he saved a whole bunch of guys. Goes, there was no Medal of Honor. Your brother Harry died that day when you were 12 because he saved him. And I was like, it was such a great movie for anyone going through a tough time. I just like, and I got to go with that. And all right, it's your turn there, Ballinger.
Okay. Let me get my list here. Yeah, you know what? Okay, so we said the Song of Bernadette, Trouble with Angel, Donovan's Reef.
Oh, if I could, real quick, Colin, great point. His sons all went to war. This guy was a patriot, Jimmy Stewart. There's no question about it. This guy was absolutely a patriot. And I remember one time they asked him. This was really interesting during an interview during the Vietnam War, and they asked Jimmy Stewart, "Well, what if your son was?" Opposed to the war. And Jimmy Stewart's like, opposed to the war? Well, they wouldn't be back in my house. I promise you that. There's no opposed to the war here. You do your duty. And I came from a very similar family. I really related to that. And so thank you, Colin, for pointing that out. Very, very true. He did serve. He did serve in that. Hacksaw Ridge, Patricia Moss. How's Ireland, Patricia? That was a great movie based on a true story. Medal of Honor winner, and I can't remember his name. Dawson.
Love that one.
I forget Dawson. I forget, but I'll come to you. Tremendous movie. So anyway, you're up, Cheri.
What about The Quiet Man?
Nice. Oh, good call. Go into it.
So The Quiet Man, that's with John Wayne, right? Like
yes, John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara.
Maureen O'Hara. I mean, that duo is just so on fire. I love them so much. But what I loved about that movie too is obviously I know we got an Irishman here, but it's the Irish thing. I get it, Jim.
Yep.
But what I loved is again that normalization. Like they gotta have the priest, they gotta do all the things just so she's like from the country. Like it was just, it's such a sweet story.
Yes,
and
it is.
It's just sweet. And I think a lot of times, the reason why people love movies too is it's like an escape thing and you want to see something wholesome and sweet. And it's a reminder that there's still sweet, beautiful, wholesome things in the world, as there should be. And I think that a movie like The Quiet Man is like one of those films. It's just a very sweet movie.
I love what you said about the normalcy. I'm thinking about the two Catholic priests, and interestingly enough, there was a Church of England Anglican priest also in the town.
Yeah, and
that was the guy who found out he was. Hold on, Sean Thornton, Thumper or Trooper Thornton. That was his name, Sean Thornton, and he was a boxer. And it was and he killed a guy in the ring, which is why he was in Ireland. But the funny part was if you remember the dynamics between the two priests in that movie, and this is the part again going to your normalcy because it was hilarious. Yeah. The two priests in that movie, like the older guy was always beating up on the younger guy. And so the younger guy had it one day. And he goes, "I just might go to the Church of England," and he goes, "As if they'd have you."
It's showing like real life, but like everyone can get. I don't know. It's such a sweet movie. It's a sweet movie. It's a sweet movie. And who can deny that the chemistry between John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara? I mean, I love that duo so much.
Are you aware of what happened? That in real life that they were great friends.
Yes, I do know that. Yes,
because because she married Maureen O'Hara. Her first husband mercifully died. He was from what I hear, was a bad guy, and she remarried this guy who opened an airline in the Caribbean. And then she just quit acting, wanted to be a wife, and ran part of the airline and did a magazine and everything else. And anyway, John Wayne and the husband were great friends, so he would go there all the time and hang out with those guys all the time. And he died tragically, the husband, in a plane crash.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, and she wound up never marrying again, but she wound up running the airline, continuing it in his memory. She was a great gal.
She really was. I mean,
I have a lot of respect for her.
Yeah, I do too. She reminds me of my grandmother, who is Scottish, and my dad's side, and she's like this feisty, like Irish
fiery
woman,
redhead.
very I love her character. I think she plays herself most of the time in the movies, is what I think. I think she's really like that. She's great. She's great.
And hold on a second, John Wayne had a deathbed conversion, so did Gary Cooper. I heard that as well. Sheila Lyons. John Wayne had a deathbed conversion, so did Gary Cooper.
Yes.
Men's men, amen. Yes.
Fun fact too. This is so beautiful because yes, John Wayne did convert on his deathbed, and his grandson is a priest.
Really?
And yes, and his grandson, who is a priest, is actually out here in Orange County, Southern California, and part of the Wayne Foundation. And I mean, you see such a beautiful fruit from that. Isn't that great?
That's fair. That is great. Now, a little trivia question for anyone who wants to check me on this. I believe Quiet Man was filmed in Cong, Ireland, in Mayo. If that's possible. I happen to have family from Mayo. I'm 100% Irish there, Miss Cheri.
I know you are.
I know you are. I let that be known to anyone who will listen. That because it allows you to get forgiven for a myriad of sins.
Don't worry, I'm Irish. I know you use that.
I use that get out of jail card all the time. But okay, so hang on a second. Oh, I'm right, Colin. Thank you, Colin. I believe you're from Ireland yourself, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Patricia Moss. Yes, Patricia Moss. I know is in Mayo, I believe. Right, Patricia?
Good.
Hang on a second. There you go. I'll put her up there. So I believe that she's got that. All right, Cheri, what else we got here?
Okay, I have another one.
Another one? Go. Okay. Hit it.
Who could forget the film Ben-Hur?
Bam. Yeah, I got to give it to you.
Ben-Hur.
Tremendous film.
Huge.
Go.
I mean, okay. You know what Ben-Hur reminds me of? I'm just gonna put them all together, like the movie The Ten Commandments. All of these epic films that were made on the Bible stories and stories from the Bible, and these huge biblical productions. I mean, so much went into these films like Ben-Hur, and they were so inspiring because it makes you really remember, okay, I'm reading this. Yeah,
I thought that was funny. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Joanna Byrne. I love you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. That's fantastic.
I love it.
I love that movie. He was great.
Love it.
Here's a stick to beat the lovely lady. Go ahead. That was, remember that? I was like, what? Did he really say that?
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, you know what? But Ben-Hur is such a classic because it just gets you thinking about the Bible stories again. And they made these epic productions from, the Bible, all of those films that were made, like, Cecil D. DeMille.
Yeah, Cecil B. DeMille, right?
So there we go.
Okay.
There we go. Having trouble talking today.
Nope.
It's Friday, guys.
We're going over a lot of info here. It's Friday night. So I got it.
But, he did all of these epic biblical films, and they were just so beautiful. Like, the Ten Commandments and all this stuff. So.
Someone mentioned 10 Commandments earlier. You know what, Cheri? I'll tell you, if I could, I just want to shift a little bit. Again, guys, I'm going to go through this. I promise you by tomorrow morning, I'll have all these movies listed and some other ones. There's one more thing, and I would call this category, and help me out here if you think I'm wrong, but there's a ton of movies that could have been wonderful.
Yes.
And they had to wreck it. And I would say to you, one thing that comes to mind is St. Ralph. Did you ever see it?
St. Ralph. No, I haven't.
It was like, it was this possibility of what could have been a tremendous movie, and they had to junk it up. They had to put in questionable scenes, and it was this kid whose parents died, and he had a lot of pluck. You know, his parents died, and his grandparents died, and he was at a Catholic school, and he had befriended, and one of the guys, one of the priests became they became close, and he taught him how to run. And his mother was, and the kid's mother was dying, and so he thought that. He read some Bible passage that if I did something great, you know, for God, like something like unbelievable, that he would spare my mother. And so he ran the Boston Marathon. Now, for those people who don't know, the kid is like, he was only like, I guess about 14 or something. And so this priest helped him run the Boston Marathon. You have to qualify for the Boston Marathon to begin with, right? Wow. You don't just join. Right. And so he qualifies, and he wound up, and he wasn't almost, and he said, I'm going to win the Boston Marathon. And he didn't win, but he wound up like showing very, very well. And it was such a beautiful movie. And yet for anyone who's seen it again, it's called St. Ralph, and they had to junk it up. And there were a couple of scenes in there that were questionable. And I remember at the end of the movie, that I just went, oh my gosh, that was such a beautiful movie. And they wrecked it. They just wrecked it, and I thought there's a lot of them out there. Another one is with Bill Murray, Saint Vincent of the Avenue, who's about helping out a young guy, and again they have to throw in frankly this crap. Have you ever seen Lilies of the Field with Sidney Poitier?
Yes, that's a good movie. It's been years since I've seen that. That's a very good film.
Yeah, my sister popped that one up, Joan Goss. I don't recall seeing that one. Do you have a brief one on that?
Movie. Yes. He was such an excellent actor. And if I remember right, I think that was a black and white film. It was years ago that I saw that, but it was just such a very beautiful film. And Sidney Poitier, he was just like such a great actor. He was an African American. I don't know. I just remember this black and white movie. I think I saw that in high school. And I think that actually won like a number of awards because the cinematic.
Yeah, I think you're right too. And I'm not familiar, but I think I think you.
Yeah, that's on the list for sure.
Yeah, and I'll go with and I'll tell you one of my all-time favorites, and if I could, because we'll be wrapping it up shortly. But I would say, and I love this one for various reasons, but Man for All Seasons, and I mentioned it earlier. It's a very interesting thing. To me, I remember I watched this as a young man. It's a very interesting thing when you're in the club. You got the cash and prizes. You're in there, and then you go, no, I'm not. Sorry, I have to stick to my. I have to stick to my faith. I have to stick to. What I know is right. This world is temporary. And nothing personifies that more than St. Thomas More, who got stuck in, the Tower of London, and I think it was Henry VIII, and really let him have it. Made his children come by and see him, and everyone, his wife, his kids are going, just roll over and sign this stupid thing. Yeah. And you have to ask yourself a question. You really do.
Like, would I do that? Like conviction.
Yes, that's it. And I gotta, to me.
Good one.
That's got to be up there. And there is another one too, if I could bring it up, which is not overtly Catholic, but it has very, very Catholic messages. Casablanca.
Oh my gosh, how can we not have Casablanca on? Honestly, I love that movie. That's like on the top list of classics, hands down. Yeah.
And it was sacrificial love at the end.
Yes.
And Victor Laszlo.
There are so many one-liners from that film, like to this day are used. I mean, and that's just, again, that is the power of good film.
Well said.
Yes. All of these years later, we can still quote movies like Casablanca, like Here's Looking at You, Kid, things like 100%. That. Or we'll always have Paris. We'll always have Paris.
Yes. Or there's gambling in this establishment. I'm shocked, I tell you.
I love it. And that song, as time goes by. I mean, love it.
I know. I guess I just that was a tremendous. And I think even in this brief romp that we did here down with some of these movies, every one of these movies that were mentioned, the ones you called out, and the ones I did, again, it was the triumph of the human spirit. There was a positive message. These were
Yes.
uplifting. These
Yes.
These movies were uplifting. Do me a favor, and we'll when Hillary playing the Thomas War blew me away. Oh yeah, okay. Do me a favor, will you? Because I want to wrap it up this way. I was always impressed with your vision of that, and I think like your vision of bringing back that golden age of Hollywood. Maybe you can tell us a little bit. Again, this is the private anchor team premium members. What are you working on? Are you, because I know that you're very dedicated to this, and I know you feel really passionate about this. Maybe just a brief statement on what you're working on, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jim. Yes, you know what? Well, my movie Roe v. Wade has been out, so I've been still on the press tour for that, and that's been going really well. And I am seriously working on about 5 movies right now. And you made a very good point when you said that there's a lot of films that could actually be considered just absolutely fabulous, but they have to screw it up by putting in a very unnecessary scene. So I have really been fighting with, when there's script sessions for a film, taking out like these unnecessary things. And I think that that's like part of the issue that we've been dealing with movies. So I just want to ask everyone to please pray for me, because I'm trying really hard to make really good films happen with great stories. We bring it back. And also, my whole thing is making everything classy again. Like, let's bring back classiness. Let's bring back good stories, normalizing values. And so I do have a number of projects. So everyone, please, if you can, pray for me. And I really just want to make good movies again, where people want to go and see them. They're mainstream, but they have those values that are we just have to normalize them again. And it's up to us, and we have to show kids these older movies. We have to show them these other good movies. I do want to close with, there's a movie coming up with my friend David Henry. It's his directorial debut. It's called This Is the Year. It comes out in movie theaters the end of September. Excellent film. Nothing bad in it. It's like it almost feels like a teen rom-com, but it has like values in it. So it's a great movie coming up for everyone to go see. And then, and please pray for me for these films I have in production. And let's bring classiness back again. Let's do it.
Well, Cheri, well said. Listen, and I mentioned by reaching out on the Roe v. Wade movie, and you were good enough to respond, and you came on to General Quarters to become a friend of Lepanto. You're a lovely young woman. Thank you for taking the time. We wish you nothing but the best. We need people like you. And in all sincerity, Cheri, thank you for coming on. I know you're very busy, and best of luck with Roe v. Wade, because that was a tremendous movie. We didn't go into that too much. That was a great movie, and I hope millions of people watch it. I was so impressed with that movie. So,
thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who is listening and watching today. This was fun.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed it. So, all right. So I think guys, if I could, we're gonna close it with a prayer. And since you chose Latin, I'll do that again, Cheri, and we'll hit it. We'll wrap it up. In nomine Patri, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia pleni. Plene Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. In nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Guys, this was a tremendous time. God bless you all, and we will be back next week with Mr. Hitchborn, because he's running his young son up to college. That's a big deal, and it was a real honor to do this in his absence. And thanks, guys. And Cheri, thank you again.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Viva Cristo Rey. Bye, guys.